Hi, my name is Elaine Pendergrass, and I specialize in education and children's ministry. Oftentimes, when I ask parents, what would you like to learn more about? The question that they ask is, how do I deal with electronics with my children? This is a loaded question because our society has moved so far from just communicating with people in everyday life and conversations into such an electronic culture. When so much that we depend on, if we forget our phone, we feel like we don't have, shoes on, let's say. We're very aware of the things that are on TV and on social media. Those become talking points rather than just talking about the weather. So electronics are important in our lives. So my first thing would be realize this. Electronics are important in our lives. They're not just important to us so that we feel connected to the world if we have our own phones, or in the case of children, tablets or computers, but also because that's how people socialize a lot more now. So oftentimes when people call, oftentimes now, people don't prefer to call someone on the phone. They prefer to text, or they prefer to send a snap in Snapchat, or they prefer to send a DM in Instagram or something like that. So our communication has changed so that we use more electronic communication. And that's reality, but it also changes the way that we do connect with others. So when we talk about this with children, it's important to realize that although electronics are super important in our lives and media is super important, also that communication styles have changed. We also want to remember that we're trying to raise children, at least I hope you are, I am, trying to raise my children with a Christian worldview, where they make wise choices, where they're kind and loving to people, and where they follow Jesus. So I want to think about those things when it comes to electronics as well. So one of the things I want to think about when it comes to children is what age they are, what developmental level are they, let's say. A lot of times these days, if I go to dinner with my family, I'll see families that everyone's on their phone at the table. I know there are times when that's just the case, but I went to a restaurant fairly recently and saw a baby young enough to be in a carrier, and the parents had taken the sort of tablet thing that you pay on at the kiosk kind of thing at the table and put it propped so that the baby who's in a carrier could see it. This was a couple, and maybe they were having a date and hadn't been away from the baby all in a long time. I don't know, but the point was, it was disturbing to see. That's immediately what we go to now, is give kids electronics. You see it you see it in carts at grocery stores. You see children with phones. You see it in almost anywhere you go. You see children on electronics. While that can be a great babysitter for a few minutes, it really does change things in their brain. One of the things I want you to think about as a parent is something that I pay attention to, and is the attention span of a child. So we expect attention spans to be pretty small when they're young and to get longer as they get older. And yet what we're seeing in science and what we're seeing with research and things that are being done is that attention spans are getting shorter. I've heard the most recent research that I've heard said that we have about the attention span of a goldfish, which probably is not very long. So one of the things we want to work on with our children and with ourselves too is to have an attention span where we can sit here and watch an entire video, or we can read a chapter of a book, or we can have a conversation with someone without going to something else. That attention span is important. Imagine if Jesus was talking to us today, and Jesus was having a conversation and had his phone, and the phone rang, and he went immediately to it to see what the reel was that was shared with him on Instagram. It probably would change the way that we related to Jesus. Like, oh, I thought I was important, but I guess that's more important. We do that oftentimes with our children when we turn to electronics instead of paying attention to them. We also teach them that their attention spans can be short, because when we want them to engage or be quiet or be behaved while we're in a store or a restaurant, we hand them a phone. Pay attention to what children watch on phones. Now, when they're very tiny, they don't have the finger strength or the ability, the fine motor skills to be able to scroll through things. But as they get a little bit older, when they're able to pick up things and maneuver things with their hands, children are able to maneuver things on phones. So if they have a phone or a tablet, pay attention to how long a child watches a certain show. what I have observed through the past few years is that children watch a video for a few seconds and then you'll see a swipe, and they watch something else and they swipe, and they watch something else and they swipe. So what is happening is that attention span of where the child at home, let's say electronic wise, might watch an episode of Bluey, which is however long, but certainly longer than a swipe, watch the entire episode, or maybe watch part of it and play for a little bit and watch part of it. That's very normal. But we're allowing them to go, oh, 1, 2, 3, swipe, 1, 2, swipe. So their attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Imagine the impact that this can have as children get older and then attend school. When a teacher, very much like me, is in front of a classroom talking about, phonics or something, or how birds lay eggs. Imagine how difficult it would then be for that child to pay attention to boring old me standing in front of the room, even if I have a few objects to show them, because they're so used to the music and the videos and the movement and the changes and all of that. So by allowing our kids to swipe, swipe, swipe and have access to electronics at such a young age, we're really causing a detriment to their ability to focus and their attention span. So pay attention to that. That could be if you're secular, that could be if you're Christian, any of the things. That attention span is certainly a big thing to consider. Another thing to consider is when children are on electronics only, that means we're likely not engaging with them verbally or with hand gestures and things like that. So where my kids are older, they're 19 and 17. So when they were little, electronics were not as available to us. We didn't use them as much. We had TVs, but not phones and all the kind of things all the time that we use like we do now. They weren't smartphones, right? And so with our children, we be outside and go, oh, look, it's a bird. Oh, listen to that airplane. Oh, look at this book. We're showing and pointing and telling and collaborating and talking and communicating with our children. And as they've gotten more toward that, if you'll notice at a dinner table, again, back to the restaurant example, everyone kind of sits in silence, laughing at what they see, maybe looking up occasionally to have a conversation, and then back to the phone. And so what that does is it impacts the way that we communicate with others. And you can see this play out again as kids get older. In particular, even with my children at this age, the way that they are dating, the way that they are getting to know each other has changed. What I'm learning, and I'm sure it changes often, but what I'm learning is that kids of the dating age, maybe they're younger than the dating age and you don't know they're doing this, but they begin to talk to each other. And what that means is they're texting, or they're snapping on Snapchat, or they're sending a DM on Instagram and things like that. And they just kind of back and forth for a little bit. And that's oftentimes before they begin to date. So what I'm thinking is, when these kids actually go on a date, how do they talk to each other? What do they talk about? They're used to sharing something and having, a lot of time where they can send and unsend, and reword it and unsend and overthink. Is this the right thing? And if I use all caps, it means this. And if I don't do this, it means this. They're doing that. So when I'm in front of somebody, and my children, let's say, are in front of someone of the opposite sex in a dating situation, or even in a friend situation, are they going to be able to have a coherent conversation with someone? That concerns me a great deal. Having interviewed people that are coming up in these next generations, sometimes it's a little bit challenging, that communication style. And so one of the things as parents that we can do is to limit some of that electronic usage so that we can help develop those communication strategies, model how to talk, how to listen, how to correspond, what kinds of things to talk about. Because again, we talked about the weather and what we were doing on the weekend. They're talking about, the most recent, like whatever happened a minute ago on the news. At times. And so that access to information is another concern. So we've got the attention span, we've got the communication issues that can come up, also the access to information. Children these days have access to more information than we ever did when I was a kid. I sound like I'm a 80-year-old, 47, but back when I was growing up, we had to look in the World Book Encyclopedia to learn about something. And these days, when I say, oh, what is, we're talking about something, I'll see my daughter immediately pull it up and look it up on her phone. It happens just like that, where we would have to go to the library to do research and get books and check out in the Dewey Decimal System. Now they're doing it all on their phones and their tablets and their computers. And so access to information is fantastic because you can learn so much. If you're interested in sports or you're interested in science, whatever you're interested in, you can find information. It's also kind of a double-edged sword, parents, because your children have access to everything. No longer is it a place where you have to pay. For example, back in the day in hotels, you had to pay for the porn that you could rent basically on the TV. You had to pay for on computers to have access to porn and pornographic images and such. You can pretty much Google a body part and see a lot of things. I'm talking videos, I'm talking photos, I'm talking other images that are readily available to your children. This can be even included with blockers and things on the phones and the tablets and whatever. So be very aware of that, parents, that your children have access to a lot of information for better or for worse. So let's talk about some things that you can do as parents to help remedy these problems or to help your children use electronics in appropriate ways. Because there is a lot of beauty to electronics. There's a lot of wonderful things that can happen. We can have instant almost access to people that we love. We can share pictures of things that we can't see, maybe our best friend in another state, but we can share information and videos and images very quickly. Grandparents who don't live close can be part of the dinner table if you turn on Alexa or something like that. And there are really beautiful things that can happen, but there can also be dangers. Short attention spans, lack of communicative skills, also access to lots of information, some of which is appropriate, some of which is not. So what can we do, parents? Well, one thing is, please keep in mind the developmental appropriateness of what your children are watching and whether even they should have any kind of media at a young age. The most recent study I've heard, and this one has been around for a while, this particular number, is that children should not have access to technology and media until they're at least 2 years old. 2. That's the number. That's the magic number. So if you have a 6-month-old and you're shoving a phone in your 6-month-old face, that's not developmentally appropriate. You say, oh, but it's easier. Well, guess what? Give them a toy. Give them some sort of thing that's in your purse. Let them see some keys. That is the kind of thing that's appropriate for kids at that age. They need to be exploring with their hands and with their mouths and with their eyes, but not into any information that's really digital at that point. In fact, until a certain age, I don't know the particular number right now, but that object permanence, the idea of things being abstract or concrete, they don't understand abstract. So they're watching these things that aren't real. And while imagination is not bad, let's get them associated with real things and concrete things before we introduce all these other things that can come along later in their lives and they can enjoy at a different age. So what's developmentally appropriate? That also means setting boundaries for your children. So at first, don't even give them electronics, right? And then you want to set boundaries. Maybe you have a tablet and your child can use that tablet for 15 minutes a day. Or 30 minutes a day, and then it sits on top of the refrigerator, or it plugs in and goes away, or it lives in your room, but it doesn't provide access to your children all day, every day. It should be kind of a treat, right? Oh, you had such a great day at school. I know you were a really good listener, if they were. So you get 30 minutes of electronic time. Do you want to watch a video, or do you want to draw on the tablet? Do you want to play a game, or do you want to, whatever? Think about that. So limits. Those limits should continue as your children get older. Research says that children are spending 7 to 8 hours a day. Children, birth through 18. I don't know when it starts, but through that time, 7 to 8 hours a day on electronics. That is a lot, y'all. That means if they go to school 7.5 hours a day, they're spending at least that, if not more, on electronics. That's a full work day for those of us that try to do the 40-hour work thing. That's a lot of time on electronics. I don't even spend 8 hours a day with my children. You might if you're a stay-at-home parent, but I bet it's not all one-on-one. So this thing, this tablet, this phone is getting their undivided attention for 7 to 8 hours a day. It's giving them information. It's helping them learn. It's also providing them with opportunities to create a worldview. And if you're a Christian and you're letting a tablet or a phone or a computer tell your children what worldview they should have, then you're in dire straits, because your kids are going to grow up being very progressive. They're going to grow up being very, kind of whatever goes, that there's not one way to know, to be religious, that there are many ways to God. They're going to grow up learning all the things that you see on the news and in social media, and it's at their fingertips for 7 to 8 hours a day. We don't even go to church for 7 or 8 hours a day or read our Bibles for 7 to 8 hours a day. So keep that in mind, parents. We need to limit that time. We need to help our kids sometimes because they can get sucked in just like we can on social media. Those of us that are a little older on Facebook or Instagram, we can get sucked in like, oh, I'm watching this video and looking at this person's kids and things like that. And we can get sucked in for an hour at a time. So imagine if we can, and our self-control hopefully has developed more than our child's because they're young and they haven't had the chance to practice, then we need to help them. So sometimes that means, hey, I need you to put your phone down. You need to take a break. Here, bring it over here. You're not in trouble. I just want you to do something active. Let your brain stretch. Go do some exercise, ride your bike, read a book, draw something, whatever it is. Spend time with somebody, but give them a break. Give them permission as your parent to say, you don't have to be on your phone all day, every day. Even if all your friends are, you don't have to be on your phone all day, every day. And I don't want you to be. And this is why. Tell them why. Attention span, what they have access to, communication skills, say those things. Also the Christian worldview. We want you to have a Christian worldview, and you're not going to learn it watching a screen all day. Boom. So set limits. Younger kids, set that certain time. Older kids, you may want to say, okay, no phones at the table, no phones while you're doing homework, whatever those limits are that you see appropriate, limit it. You might say you only can have blank hours a day of phone time. And there's ways to set up settings and things where you can see how long they spent on this and this and this. I know my phone sends me stuff and I don't even have a setting on it. You spent this much time on Facebook. You can look up that stuff, parents. Another thing about that is this. So you're setting limits on how often, how long. Another thing is what they have access to. So you can set up blockers and things, I don't know the real term, but things that are kind of protectors for the children that they can't get into certain things. Although I will say they pretty much can find their way around a lot of things. But as parents, think of this as well. You should have full access to your child's media. That includes social media passwords. That includes access to look at who they're talking to, look through the phone records, look through the text messages and things like that. I'm the one that pays for it as the parent. My husband and I decided this years ago. My husband and I decided years ago, we're the ones that pay. And so it's our phone, it's our home, it's our TV, it's our clothes that we let you use. We're being good stewards of what God's given us, and you can be good stewards of what we've given you. And yet that means that we're the boss. So I'm the boss of the phone, not you. And so I'm going to have access to it. And there are times we've told our children, we're going to pick it up and look through it and see what we see. There are times that you find things that are disturbing and upsetting parents. And we need to know what our children are finding, because if we don't, and they don't tell us, then they're thinking about and learning about and exploring things that do not align with Christian values. Guarantee it. So you need to have access to your child's phone. Also, I highly recommend having the phone go away at night. It can be very tempting, especially as children are reaching adolescence, for them to look at things while they're going to sleep or while they're lying in bed. You can imagine the things that can happen, the things they can find, the conversations they can have with people they might be interested in, the pictures that can be sent, the videos that can be shared. I'm not going to elaborate, but I'm thinking a lot of sexuality kinds of things. And they're more tempting when you have your door closed at night. So very much like when I was in college at a Christian school, and we could have boys in the girls' dorms at certain times on the weekend, but the door had to be open. I've heard of schools where they said your both feet have to be on the floor. You know what I mean? My parents would say, don't lie down on the bed, sit up beside each other. Having some safety practices in place, it's a good practice to say your phone doesn't live in your room with you. It lives with me. It lives on the kitchen counter. It lives whatever. So you put it to bed at night. It's a great idea for adults as well. Otherwise, we might wake up at 3 a.m. and hear our phone ring, and we become slaves to the phone. So set parameters like that. When things like that are broken, just as with any discipline issue with your child, if your child breaks a rule, there should be a consequence. Now, hopefully you've warned them in advance. I don't want you looking at anything that has anybody naked. I don't want you looking at anything that has anyone doing anything sexually. By the way, parents, I have some videos about talking to your kids about sex, and you cannot wait until they get older, because they've already either experienced or seen a lot more than you think. I don't want you to do anything that's going to potentially have you your worldview shifted from Christian to something else, those kind of things. So we're going to set parameters. And when those things are broken, If your children break those rules, they don't put the phone up at night, they're on their phone longer than you say, you find that they've been looking at things they shouldn't be looking at, or sending pictures or receiving pictures that are not appropriate for a Christian young person who's not married, then there needs to be consequence. Typically with consequences, you want to take away something they love. So in this case, if it's something like a cell phone, then you take that cell phone away for a time. You figure out what works best for you. If it's something egregious, it goes away for a long time. If it's something like you didn't turn in your phone last night until 10 o'clock and it should be turned in at 8 o'clock, I'd take away 2 hours of phone time the next day. Use your judgment. If your child, it's an accident, oh, I forgot to put it on the counter, or if it was on purpose. If your child comes to you and says, oh, mom, I searched blank and I found this, look what I found. They're not literally searching for inappropriate material. So having very open lines of communication, having very clear warnings, having very clear boundaries, and then enforcing those boundaries can go a very long way. So remember, parents, you're in charge. These are your phones, tablets, computers, whatevers. Take charge. Be Christian. Talk about God's love and forgiveness no matter what, but help them make wise choices with electronics. If this video has been helpful to you, please like it. Please add comments or questions and I'd be glad to respond.